Well, good evening. This is Congressman Randy Nagelbauer, and this is a live teletown hall meeting. This is something we do on a fairly regular basis. We can do town halls in two ways. We can do them by these conference calls or telephone, or we can do them in person. But when we're here working in Washington legislatively, this allows us to continue to stay in touch with you. So I'm delighted to join you this evening. I'm calling you from your office in Washington, D.C. A lot of people ask me how are ways that, they can interact with our office, and certainly the old-fashioned way, you can call us, and we have an 800 number for those of you in the district, and that number is 888-763-1611. Another way you can communicate with us is through email, and my email address is randy.house@mail.house.gov. Another way, though, is also to, another way is you can sign up for Randy's Roundup. So each Monday, we send out about 20,000 emails to constituents that have signed up for that. And what happens is in that email, we talk about current events, we talk about the issues, and many times, as we'll have an opportunity tonight, we ask you to participate in a survey and give us your opinion on some of those issues. The way this works for those of you that haven't been with us before is if you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, you press the 0 key, and that'll put you in the queue to ask a question. And we ask that you try to be as concise and quick with your question as possible so that we can get to as many calls as possible. But again, this is Congressman Randy Nagelbauer, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. this evening. I understand that this call is kind of in the Abilene area, and I understand maybe yesterday got a little rain in Abilene, which is a good thing. We need a whole lot of rain, but we'll certainly take moisture whenever we can get it. So what I'm going to do here is just kind of do a little brush through of what are some of the the issues that are current here in Washington, but there will be other issues that you'll want to talk about as well. And so really the purpose of this call tonight is more of a listening session and not a speaking session on my part. So I want to hear from you and listen to you. Obviously, we're right in the middle right now. Congress has done its budget. I had an opportunity to vote on a budget that would actually bring us to a balanced budget within 10 years, and actually had a chance to vote on another budget that would have balanced the budget a little bit quicker. I'd like to do it in 1 year, but we didn't get to $17 trillion overnight, but it is imperative that we begin to curb this debt, because if we don't do something about this, we are going to leave our children and our grandchildren with a huge amount of debt that probably they can't pay back. Right now, today, you and I each owe about $55,000. So after we do a budget, which is the blueprint, then we do what we call the spending bills, or the appropriation bills, and we're in the middle of those. I think we've done about 4 of those or 5 of those, and we have about 7 to go. And this is where we really each one of the committees kind of goes through the budget and tries to match up the spending, and also looking for waste, fraud, and abuse, and it gives members of Congress opportunity also to put amendments to the spending bills to cut spending or to cut wasteful programs, or sometimes amendments are offered to limit the president's what some people think is overreach. And so we're right in the middle of that process as well. I think one of the other things that continues to dominate the landscape here is, recently to find out that the VA hasn't been taking very good care of some of our veterans, and that many of them have had to wait a very long time for treatment. Some people thought originally that was just, applied to the facility in Arizona, but a further review indicated that, it was happening, unfortunately across the country. And so we've had a number of hearings about that, and I think we'll continue to have more hearings. I think we've taken some action in the House and the Senate. We're waiting for them to concur with a plan that I think the President came up with, and that is to allow veterans that live, say, about 40 miles or further from home, or that have had to wait over 14 days to go see their local doctor and not wait to have to go to a VA clinic if they're on a long waiting list. That's the short-term solution, but long-term, we need to figure out a way that we don't get in this kind of situation again where we're not being able to provide adequate health care for our veterans. And so that'll be a longer-term discussion. And obviously, if you've been watching TV, as you've noticed that it's been filled with the fact that we can't seem to secure our border, even to keep children from coming into this country illegally. And now that has accelerated because a lot of people blame the president for that because they think he's not enforced the immigration laws. And it's kind of sent a signal that kids are going to get a different deal than adults. And so we see a lot of parents trying to sneak their children and putting these children at risk, to some really bad people, and some bad things can happen to them. And so the discussion has been, how do we, get the president serious about securing our border? Because a lot of people want to do some immigration reform, but it doesn't do you any good to change any of the immigration laws if you're not going to enforce them. And obviously, if you've been watching the world situation, obviously the Middle East is always a very unstable part of the world, but it's even getting more, and now we're seeing unrest in Iraq, and a lot of people are, questioning what is our next step there. And be interested to hear, some of your opinion about that tonight. But obviously, the president's taking quite a bit of criticism for his foreign policy. I think there's a poll out today that shows it's at an all-time low. I think 31% approval rating, so that means 69% people don't think he's doing a very good job. But it's a problem. And again, we've spent a tremendous amount of resources, human and lives, that were given to help the Iraqi people secure that peace, and spent a lot of taxpayer money. And I think it's real frustrating for a lot of people right now to see that unraveling. I don't know if anybody really knows how that's going to play out. One of the other things that obviously on a continuing basis continues to be, whether it's Benghazi, it's the IRS targeting, conservative groups, and now Lois Lerner's computer is mysteriously crashed. I just came from a briefing earlier today where we learned that even 6 more computers mysteriously crashed of people that were of interest in this investigation. So I think there's quite a bit of angst among members of Congress, and really I sense across my district about the president not enforcing the law, ignoring the law, altering the law, but also I continue to have a lot of people coming in and talking about all of the regulations and stuff and how that's hurting their business. Again, this is Congressman Randy Neugebauer, and this is a live teletown hall meeting, and I want to thank all of you for joining. For those of you who just joined, if you would like to ask a question, you can press the 0 key, and that'll put you in the queue to ask a question. And we're going to go to the phone lines here in just a minute. Again, I want to remind everybody that if you aren't receiving Randy's Roundup, you can do that by going to my website at randy.house.gov. That's randy.house.gov. There's a lot of other things that you can do to get to that website, but one of the things you can do is sign up for Randy's Roundup, and each Monday in the evening you should get that in your mailbox. So we're now going to go to the phone lines, and we're going to take the first question here, and I think this is going to be maybe the Newcomb residents. Are you there?
Yes, I was. You're right. The lowest deal in the computers and the IRS. I agree. Was it $17 billion? Yeah, $17 billion budget, and they can't get it right still. For the computers anyway. And the Iraq deal, my son was in that war. Thank God he came out and is doing fine now, but here we go again. mind then be as a reservist. I would like to see it. I'd like to see us take care of our own backyard, not go across, take care of everybody else's problems. Just take care of our own backyard. Let's get it straight first.
Well, I can't say that I don't disagree with you. I think that's one of the things we're going to have to do as a country is that we just really can't be the world's police department. And some of these countries have civil unrest and there are civil wars, secular wars. For example, in Iraq, you got Sunnis, Shiites, and the Kurds. They've never really kind of gotten along. And now, we see them getting involved, and now their neighbor Iran getting involved, so it is a very complicated issue. And in a minute, I'm going to ask everybody's opinion on what they recommend that you would recommend the president do. But obviously, there's a lot of different options that are being looked at right now, and the president's working from a diplomatic standpoint. He's said he's not going to rule out the military, but won't send any ground troops. But we'll see. Yeah, and the computer issue is mystifying. That mysteriously these computers that are very important to this investigation now are the ones that have crashed and are no longer working, and nobody knows how to get the data off of it. But I would tell you that that's some very serious issues there, and that's not an issue that I think we're about to let go here anytime soon. Thanks again for your comments and questions. We're going to do our first question tonight, and this is just kind of a general question. I wanted to kind of see, what you think some of the priorities are in the country. So the first question is what do you think one of the biggest issues facing America is right now? And the first answer would be you would press 1 if you think it's government overreach. Press 2 if you think too much government spending. 3 if you think it's high taxes. 4 if you think it's slow economy. Or 5, income inequality. Again, what do you think is one of the biggest issues facing the country? Number 1, government overreach. Number 2, too much spending. 3, high taxes. 4, slow economy. And 5, income inequality. And I'll come back to that. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. And meanwhile, let's go back to the phone lines. And I think this is going to be the Winkler residence. Are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Good to have you on.
Nice to be on, Randy, if you don't mind me calling you that.
Yes, that's my name.
Okay. Well, my name's Vera, and this is the Winkler residence.
Yes.
And I've been on many of your calls before.
Good.
And the question I have, Randy, is this. How can senior citizens continue to live on their either disability or their Social Security at a rate when inflation is so high? We just, I don't even hardly watch the world news anymore. Number one, most of it's not the truth, or it's stretched beyond even being a facsimile of the truth. But it depresses me so bad that I just, and I don't know how many days I've got left on this earth. I'm in my late 60s. And so, but inflation, like I said, is getting outrageously high. And groceries, gasoline, housing, it's unbelievable. But yet our puny raises on our Social Security is not enough to cover inflation. And I would like to know and the presidents won't even cut more of our programs. Or the president has suggested cutting more. What does he want to do? Euthanize all older citizens?
Well, you make some good points, and it's not something that's new. I mean, we hear that, and one of the things we voted on some bills today, for example, that would help produce more oil in this country to help get gasoline costs down. You know, gasoline has gotten almost doubled since Barack Obama took over as the presidency. And you know, as you say, it's the overall cost of living, according to how they compute the index, has not allowed seniors to get very much of a bump in their Social Security or their disability. But yet things like gasoline, natural gas, and other things have gone up, and it puts everybody on a tight budget. And the other thing too is we've had a very weak economy, and so the Federal Reserve has kept the interest rates very low, and so you really can't make any money on your savings, and so it's really hurt our seniors. And one of the best ways to help seniors is, one, to have an energy policy that gets America more energy independent, gets more supply of oil and gas to refine to make gasoline, to have a good economy and a good agricultural policy in this country, where farmers are encouraged to produce as much as they can, and that'll help keep prices down. But the problem is that this administration is putting a lot of regulations on almost every aspect of the economy, whether it's oil and gas or agriculture, just about anything that you use or consume. The government's putting out a bunch of new regulations, and that just drives the cost up. And as you say, it squeezes the budgets of our seniors. And so, one of the things we've got to do is get all of this red tape off of the economy and let the economy start doing better. Because when the economy does better, everybody does better. So thanks for that point. I'm going to go back to our question that we just asked. I asked you, what do you think is some of the biggest problems facing America? And it was, the number one answer was government overreach, and 45% of you said that the government overreach was one of the major problems. But right behind it, and I concur, is 39% of you said that you thought it was too much government spending. 7% thought it was a slow economy, and 10% of you thought it was income inequality. And I would tell you that I think those top two, the government overreach and too much spending, are the major issues facing our country right now. And it's imperative that we get something done about that pretty quickly. We'll have another question here in a minute. I tell you what I really would like to do is I'll go to this other question here in just a minute. Let's go back to the phone lines. And this is going to be, I believe it's the Missouri residence. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Missouri?
Mr. Noggenbauer.
Yes.
This is Mrs. Schneider. Yes.
Yes, how are you?
My son-in-law was stationed in, I'm doing fine, thank you. My son-in-law was stationed in Dubai. He's now making flights over Iraq. Now, is this just a show of military force so he gets shot down by a air-to-ground missile? And when are we going to get our kids out of that before lessons not learned are repeated? And this is going to turn into a freaking Vietnam, only it's going to be played out on a dirt-level sand where there's no jungle for our boys to even hide in. We lost over 100,000 boys in Vietnam, and we lost God knows how many else when they came back that died from Agent Orange, exposure to napalm, malaria, and everything else. We don't even know how many. We still left 1,500 missing in action back there. Those boys are still hurting, and you're repeating. You're allowing this lawless administration to repeat history, and Obama's getting away with murder. And him and Hillary and Reid and Kerry, they're rewriting history, and it's a shame. Shame on all of you. I'm ready to charter a bus, go pick them up, let's take them to the borders and have them change diapers and see what our border agents in here in Texas are dealing with. It is ridiculous. This is the most lawless administration I've ever seen. It tops Spiro Agnew, Lyndon Johnson, you name the worst ones, Wilson, everybody. This is the most pathetic administration. My grand-uncle was a five-term congressman, and he used to play poker with Winston Churchill, Joe Kennedy, and President Truman. I am ashamed at what our country has become. My parents, 88 and 85, are hoping that they will just die before they see what happens to this country.
Well,
now that is pathetic to think that my parents just wish for death because, like Ms. Winkler said, and I'm disabled and I know it. I get $665 a month. I went to CVS to buy a bag of cotton balls. A 99-cent bag of cotton balls cost me $3.79. Now you tell me, how would you live on that kind of income? And I know what kind of income you get, and the golden parachute and all the health benefits that come with it, but you try to spend a couple weeks in the hospital and look at the pile of bills I've got and see how you would pay for them. This country is in shambles, and the first thing you need to do is put a motion forward to impeach the president, bring charges against Hillary and her involvement in Benghazi. We need to get that IRS arrogant guy that was testifying in front of Congress. I'd like to smack the smirk right off of his face. If anybody, I'm not even a member of the Tea Party, but I've posted some comments on Facebook. I have been getting calls from Washington, D.C., and when I hit redial, it's the IRS, and it goes to a mailbox that's full. They just ask for a random name. Interesting, huh?
It is interesting.
Am I being targeted by the IRS?
You bring up some great points, and let me just kind of go back through them. One is the situation in Iraq, and it is a problem. What the president has done is he's sent about 300 troops over there to act as advisors. Now, and that's as you mentioned, that's a familiar term. That's what we were going to send people over to Vietnam to be advisors. I don't know. First and foremost, thank you for your son's service to our country, and just know that Dan and I pray for our men and women on a daily basis, and we certainly appreciate not only your son's service but yours as well, because the support of the family is an important part of that. My guess is that we're flying some surveillance to get good intelligence to help the Iraqis figure out how to suppress some of the troops and movement and track some of these rogue groups that are rummaging around the country. I don't know how other members feel, but I'm not all that fired up about us getting back involved in that. I mean, we went over that. We gave them a try. We trained the Iraqi soldiers. We helped them set up their government. We helped them have free elections. But at some point in time, you have to take the training wheels off, and we're going to have to see how bad the Iraqi people want freedom. They've had a taste of it. I'm hopeful that they'll resent the fact that these rogue groups are disturbing the peace and do something about it. But, I'm with you. I don't think us getting back involved in that is in our best interest. And so we'll have to see. I think one of the things that you bring up, and that is a lot of people are concerned about the fact that the president is, sometimes taking the law in his own hand, not enforcing the law. And just today, Speaker Boehner met with some legal scholars, and one of the actions that we've been contemplating is that to give Congress standing. And now I'm not a lawyer, but the term standing is important. If you're going to sue somebody, you have to show that you were damaged in some way. And so I think you're going to see some action, particularly in the House, to rein that in, because I think that things like missing hard drives, the Benghazi thing, the cover-up, the list goes on and on and on, and the border situation is untenable. If you can't keep kids out of your country, how can you keep drug dealers and people that want to bring bad things into this country to harm us? And so I think the fact that the president hasn't secure the borders puts Americans' families at risk, and so these are all of the issues that we're all wrestling with here on a daily basis. And we're having a lot of oversight hearings. We're bringing people like the IRS commissioner over. He's been over here on Friday, and he was back over here, I think, yesterday. My guess is he'll be back, trying to get the truth. The American people are owed the truth. This president, if he doesn't want to enforce the law or whatever he wants to do, but he does owe the American people the truth, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do. I want to go back now to our question board here, and another question that's come up is that we've been having a lot of discussion about these minors, these young people that are coming across the border. And one of the reasons that a lot of people think that the young people are coming is because the president has said that he thought children ought to get a different deal than adults. So a lot of people have a different viewpoint about what we should do with the children. And so I want to see what your thoughts is. And so the question is what do you think the proper response to these children that have crossed the border illegally into America? Number one, would you just grant them full citizenship? Number two, would you allow them some kind of temporary status and with the opportunity to earn a permanent status? Or three, do you think we ought to send them home to their families? And again, so number one is grant them full citizenship. Number two, kind of give them some kind of temporary status where that they could earn permanent status down the road. Or three, do you think we ought to send them home to their families? And so we'll let everybody have a chance to answer that. And then we'll go back to the phone lines again. Here we go. This is going to be the Edwards residence. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Evening, Congressman Nagelbauer.
Good evening.
Well, I've got actually two talking points,
Okay.
I guess. Number one, it's the Middle East, and I understand that, we fought a war over there due basically to terrorism, but I think the flip side of that and the whole thing about it is mostly oil. And I don't think what people see a lot of times is that the companies that are over there drilling for that oil are American companies. Why would we not allow the XL pipeline to come through and do more drilling here at home and become more energy independent? As well as we have hundreds of years of natural gas at our disposal here at home, and why are we not doing more to make cars and trucks and buses, etc., to run more efficient on the natural gas, one of the greatest resources we have in America? The second talking point, I guess, would be, again, our military. They're over there fighting a war that will never be won. Those people have been fighting over there for thousands of years, and I think we have no business over there, and our troops are going to be paid regardless. So why not bring our troops home, put them on our border, and let them guard our border and keep those people out of here? And those would be my questions.
Well, two very good questions, and let me talk about the first one. Yeah, the energy thing is it's just a win-win. You've heard a couple of seniors talk about, trying to stretch their dollars to live on, and so by producing our own energy, gas and oil, and other sources of energy, increases the supply, and so makes the cost go down, and so. But if you're going to drill more, you've got to be able to take that oil and take it to the refineries. And the reason, the XL pipeline is just a no-brainer. And we're going to need some other pipelines. The other thing too, and you mentioned natural gas, and we are really awash in natural gas. And one of the things, you talk about, things going on in the world right now. Europe would love to buy some natural gas from the U.S. so that they wouldn't have to depend on Russia. It would really take a lot of the leverage away from Russia. Russia has kind of a stronghold on parts of Europe because Russia is one of the largest suppliers of natural gas to Europe, both Eastern, Central, and Western Europe. And so, that's a win-win situation for us. And I'm just perplexed why the president keeps, stalling and making it difficult. Won't approve the XL pipeline, won't let us go on to the public lands that don't belong to Barack Obama. They belong to the American people, and very environmentally friendly. We can produce the natural resources that are on those land. So those are things we have to pursue long term. I think the second thing too is about the border. I think we have to use our resources. I think securing the border, if one of the primary constitutional responsibilities, the reason the founders finally caved in to really form a federal government was to secure the peace. And they knew that on a daily basis, for years and years and centuries to come, that you'd have to have a strong national defense to keep your country secure. And anybody that's been in the military said, if you have a break in the perimeter, in our borders of the perimeter, then you're not secure. And so I am not opposed to putting troops working with, and it's not just putting troops down there, but working with the Border Patrol, but also working with local law enforcement. This administration isn't even cooperating in many cases with the local law enforcement. And again, it's a common goal there. We're trying to keep the people from breaking the law, and this is a nation of law. So thank you for that question. I want to go back to the question we just asked, and a question I asked, what do you think we ought to do with these minors that are crossing the border illegally? 3% of you said grant them full citizenship. 20% of you said that give them some kind of a temporary status and let them earn some kind of a permanent status down the road. And then 77% of you think they need to go back to their families. And we've done another town hall this week, and that's pretty consistent with what we heard from others on that question as well. We're going to go back to the phone lines now, and I think this is going to be the Engle residents. Are you there?
Randy, thank you very much for having me on, and I have called your office several times, and I've gotten response from you, and we appreciate it. But I just can't believe that you people in Washington continue to let the President of the United States just do what he wants to. This man is wanting to do one thing, and that is to bring this country down. We keep letting all these people come into this country. The reason that he's all for all this and everything is the Democratic Party sees nothing in the world but we'll put them on welfare and we'll get their votes. And that's what's bringing this country down, is to continue having a president and people up there in Washington that are backing him. And if you think the people in the Far East over there are not backing him 100%, that's why he's wanting to give Egypt billions of dollars every year and do all these things and not let us become energy independent in this country. He wants to bring this country down. And you people up there in Washington continue to let him do whatever he wants to do, and he needs to be stopped. He needs to be impeached. He needs to be taken out of office before he completely ruins this country. And I appreciate you listening to me, and that's just the way I feel. We need to secure our borders. We need to send them home. We don't need them over here to take care of them anymore. Those countries are hurting over there, but that's why they're wanting to send them over here. And if we don't stop that and stop the drug deals down there, our people, I've talked to too many of them whenever I had the restaurant that have been involved in all of this. And they're down there, they're scared to death. Those people down there are better armed, those drug people are, than our own people that are trying to defend our border down there. So let's get after it. get our people together and let's get this country back. We've got a great country, but we're losing it by the hour. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and I think your frustration is also my frustration, and quite honestly, it's a frustration that we hear daily in our office. The fact that the president, has really stretched the executive powers. One of the things the founders did is they made there's three co-equal branches of government, and there's a certain limited amount of things that the U.S. House of Representatives can do, and one of those is, one, try to shine light and hold the president accountable with the power of the purse. And we've done a number of spending bills where we've tried to limit the powers of the president by not funding some of his programs. The problem that we have is Mr. Reid over in the Senate won't take any of those bills up. And so I always use this example is that the way the situation works today is that each one of these checks has to have two signatures. Sometimes people, either families or businesses or something like that, require two signatures on a check. The House might sign a check that reduces spending powers of the president, but if the Senate doesn't sign it, then that check can't be cashed, and the Senate then sends over a check, then it wants to spend more, and the House doesn't want to sign that. Then we get up to the end of the year, and nobody signed a check, and then we're faced with a government shutdown. And so that's the reason that over in the House we've been looking for some other ways, to get the president's attention. And as I mentioned just a while ago, we've been exploring, and in fact, a couple of weeks ago, we passed a bill in the House that would give the House of Representatives or Congress standing, to be able to sue the president if we didn't think he was, faithfully executing the responsibilities of the executive branch. And so we're going to explore that. But the real fix and the real power that the founders gave for holding government accountable is the power of the vote. And for whatever reason, people have gave this president 4 more years. There's another election coming up in 2014 in November of this year. There'll be an opportunity for voters to express themselves about what senators they send back. Then, obviously, in 2 years there'll be another presidential election. But like you said, this is a great country, and we need to do the things that are necessary. But certainly, securing the border, it's just a no-brainer. It puts all of us at risk. Doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat or Independent or what you're. You're an American citizen, and American citizens are at risk when we're not taking care of our border. I'm going to go back to the one of our surveys here, and there's a lot of different discussions here about what to do with this deficit. And some people think that we need to, this deficit's not a big deal, and we just need to increase spending and for any kind of federal programs. Some people think we ought to start cutting spending to be more fiscally responsible. And some people say, well, just keep spending money at the same level, but don't increase it, don't decrease it. So I wanted to get your input on that. What do you think that Congress, what would you like to see Congress doing with its budget decision? Increasing spending for federal assistance programs or spending cuts to restore fiscal responsibility? That would be number 2. Or 3 would be, just keep spending at the current levels. Again, press 1 to increase spending, 2 to cut spending, 3 to maintain spending, and we'll see what folks have to say about that. We're going to go back to the phone lines now, and this is going to be the Perry residents. Are you there? Hello?
Randy Nagelbauer.
Yes, ma'am.
Who are you calling?
Well, it sometimes it shows a different name on here, but I'm calling you.
Okay. I have a suggestion about what to do with all of these kids on the border.
Okay.
Take the plane load to the White House and let the Obamas take care of some. Send a plane to Pelosi, a plane to Harry Reid. Let all of them have them to feed and diaper. Also,
you know what? I like that idea a lot. It's easy to talk about, I do this or I do that until you have to do it. And,
That's right.
Yeah.
Why should our border people be doing that when they're not being able to do their job?
Well, I can't disagree with you.
And another thing, they'll be better off in their country because they speak the language. They won't speak the language here. And and Obama's sending them $500 million anyway. So they'll be better able to take care of them than we will.
Well,
and
I think...
another thing...
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We need to cut foreign aid and get rid of our bill with China. Nobody likes us. None of these countries like us. They just like our money.
Well, I can't disagree with you there either. I think, and one of the things that, and we're going to talk about the results of this survey here in just a minute, but I concur. I mean, we've been trying to buy friends in the past, and we think we're trying to help those countries, and we may be helping them. But the problem is all of the money that we're spending on foreign aid is we're borrowing it from our children and our grandchildren. We're not even paying for it ourselves. We're putting it on their credit card. And to me, one of the greatest threats to the future of our country is this huge deficit that we're running. $17 trillion is just a huge amount of money, and it's going to be $20 trillion here in just a few years. And just the interest alone, if interest rates go back to, the more historical levels, it's going to be $1 trillion a year just for the interest. Just think, and it's hard to even get your arms around that. So I think we have to take care of our border. I think we have to take care of our fiscal household and start spending money we have instead of spending money that we don't have. Because all of us are very fortunate that we inherited a country that was with a lot of opportunity and prosperity, and we need to, on our watch, make sure that we're going to leave our children the same opportunities that we had. I want to go back to the question asked a while ago. What do we need to do about the budget? And so 7% of you said, you know what, just keep increasing spending. 83% of you said, you know what, we need to start living on a little bit leaner budget, and said cut spending. And 10% actually said to keep funding levels at the current level. And actually, if you do 2 or 3, you can balance the budget eventually, because if you cut spending, you obviously get to a balanced budget quicker. But even if you just if you froze spending at this level, the revenues continue. If the economy kind of comes back, the revenues continue to increase. You'll eventually balance the budget. Unfortunately, you'll have a pretty big deficit before you get there. But definitely, we're going to have to start making some tough choices. We're spending money on some things that we shouldn't be spending money on because we don't have the money. And sometimes it's tough to make those decisions because sometimes that's somebody's pet program. But long term, this deficit is hurting our country. One of the things that we've been talking about some here is, what should be some of those priorities of the country. And I'll come back to that question here in a minute. I want to go back to the phone line, and I think this is going to be the Gant residents. Are you there? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Good to have you on the program.
I just my concern is how do we just not keep going to war when it's it doesn't seem to do any good. We lost a lot of men in this war trying to teach them how to maintain their country, and then as soon as you start pulling them out, they have gone back to the same thing. So how many men do we have to sacrifice before we feel like that we need to come home and stay home?
Yeah, I think that's the discussion that we're having now is, and of course there's a lot of people have a different opinion. Some people think that part of the problem in Iraq is that we left too quick and we took too many soldiers out at once, and if we'd have, phased them out, this wouldn't be happening. Other people say, we gave it our best try and we should just, walk away. Others want to go back and try to shore up the Iraqi government. The problem I see right now is the Iraqi government is very unstable, and I know now that Mr. Maliki is thinking about, redoing his government, in the next few months. I'm just not sure when you have members of the military deserting, that if there's a political solution to it, I think obviously they're going to try to see that happen. But I think in the future we're going to have to ask ourselves. It's the same question. Some people want us to go into Syria. Some people wanted us to get involved with Egypt. But when these countries are having internal turmoil, I'm not sure that we're the solution. And in some cases, sometimes we can be part of the problem. So we'll just have to see. Let's just ask y'all a question tonight when it comes to Iraq. And this is the question. In reference to Iraq, do you, number one, think we ought to go back in and try to secure the peace? That would be number one. Number two is just not do anything and see what happens. Or number three, provide some assistance to the Iraqi government like the president has proposed. And so one is to send people in. Number two is do nothing. Number three is to not send any ground troops in, but provide some assistance. And so we'll kind of see what everybody's thought is on that. We're going to go back to the telephone lines, and this is going to be the Pitts residents. Are you there?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Congressman Nagenbauer. I'm a veteran that's disabled at 100% service connected. On occasion, I travel from Abilene to Albuquerque, New Mexico. They recently changed the way they distribute travel pay. Now, I'm driving from here to Abilene. That's almost 500 miles. When I'm done with my appointment, they're giving me $43. And then I'm to come back home, and then I'm to wait 3 to 5 days for a direct deposit. So, and I'm being told that my travel pay is for reimbursement for travel. Well, actually, I'm paying for the trip of traveling to the VA, so I don't understand why I have to wait for a direct deposit. Is there any way that something can be done where the veteran doesn't have to come out of his pocket to go to his appointments, or if he don't have the money on a certain occasion, having to cancel appointments? And I don't think anyone should risk their health over finances.
Well, thank you for that question, and that is a question that we get a lot in our office, and one of the things that my office is very committed to is certainly being as great as assistance as we can to veterans, particularly when they're having some issues. And I think what I want to go back to is that this whole VA issue, I think, raises the question of whether the current system we have right now is doing you the justice that you deserve. And so one of the things that concerns me is that we're asking veterans to drive huge distances to get health care when right there in Abilene, Texas, are excellent medical facilities and doctors that could do the same treatment for you there, and you would be right there in your own backyard. And if you have a complication or you need additional assistance, and so one of the things I think down the road we're going to have to begin to look at is, I know that Abilene Clinic does a great job there, and so on the outpatient basis, I think the clinics are a good solution. What I'm beginning to question is why we are asking veterans to drive these huge distances to get the care that they need, and so I am quite honestly a proponent on situations like that of allowing the veterans to get treated there in the vicinity that they live in, and then be able to VA would reimburse the doctor or the hospital there where you live. So thanks for that question, and more importantly, thanks for your service to our country, and we appreciate that, and are honored to have you a part of our Teletown Hall this evening. I wanted to go back to the question a while ago about Iraq, and the question was, what do you think we ought to be doing in Iraq? And one was, let's put troops back on the ground and go back and secure that. Only 5% of you thought that was a good idea. Number two is just, it's a problem, but we're going to just have to let them work it out. And 62% of you said that. And the third was, maybe have some support troops and see if we can provide some leadership there. And 33% of you said that. But it's pretty clear. And we had an earlier town hall meeting. No, I don't think anybody is really up to send more troops back into Iraq. So thanks for folks that participated in that. And we're going to go back to the phone lines, and I think this is going to be the Johnston residents. Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for being on
Hello?
the call.
Hi. I just have a couple of things to say. I just moved from California to Texas.
Yes.
And they have so many regulations there. It's incredible. And there's a couple of things that I see is the Environmental Protection Agency and all the regulations that they're putting on everybody. And yesterday I was listening to a gentleman on C-SPAN from Texas, and he was saying that if Texas did all the things that I guess they're trying to do something for this year, pass some regulation. If they did every single thing that was on the list, there was no way that they would even come close to meeting the regulations for you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I think...
Were you the guy that said it?
I was not, but it's a conversation.
He was wonderful.
Yeah. It's a conversation that we're having on a regular basis here. For example, some of the things that the administration is trying to do with greenhouse gases, and then
yes.
Then what's being able to contain all of the air quality in your state, not letting certain things drift over to another state. And when it comes to water issues, for example, now the government really wants to start, literally regulating the stock ponds on ranches and farms.
Well, in California, do you know what they did to the San Joaquin Valley?
Yeah,
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, they cut off all the water to the farmers out there.
Right, and farms that people had owned for 200 and 300 years. That was called our green belt in the United States is now a desert because of the smelt fish.
Yeah, that's another one of the issues that our office has been very engaged in, and that's
so Texas really. We really have to control them, and that gentleman said that it was the president giving recommendations to the environmental agency. It wasn't the law.
Well,
is it true that?
Yeah. So here's what's happened, and this is what a lot of people don't realize is so those initial laws, for example, the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, were really designed where people were really egregiously polluting. They had a pipe upstream taking fresh water in, and they were putting all their garbage and sewage and discharging it downstream. We shouldn't do that. Clean air was designed for companies to use better technology for their smokestacks, and we've done that. But what's happened is the courts, a lot of these environmental groups have gone out and sued EPA and Fish and Wildlife and all of these agencies and expanded the interpretation of these laws to the point where each time they have a lawsuit, EPA and Fish and Wildlife and all these agencies take on more and more a scope of regulation to the point now where they don't really come and ask Congress to pass any new laws because the judges in the courts are giving them all of the latitude that they need. And that's really, to be able to turn this around, we're going to have to go back, I think, legislatively and try to rein in, some of these agencies.
Yes.
Yeah, and thanks for being on the call, and welcome to Texas. Who's on? You on mute the whole time I was talking? Yeah. I had to take a little drink of water there. Excuse me just a second. So we're going to go back to the phone line, and I think this is going to be the Lewis residents. Are you there?
Thank you for listening and holding this meeting. I wanted to tell you that a former president of a university in Abilene visited over in China, and he asked the ruler, or I don't know if he's a president or ruler, but he asked him, "What is your goal in life?" And he said in a soft, firm voice, "Rule the world." Well, we owe them, China, so much money that if he called for that money, we would be broke. And that is a good way to rule the world. He could go out and they could just loan out money to whoever and then call it all in. And if you're broke, how are you going to protect yourself or your people? And I think that why is it that when we are in debt and broke, that we continue to raise the ceiling and spend and spend and spend into the trillions now? Why can't we start paying off that debt?
Well, I think that's the thank you for that comment, and I think that's the concern that I have is that at some point in time, you ask anybody that's gotten into a financial pinch where they owe so much money that the creditors are calling all the time. Some people get their cars repossessed, their houses foreclosed on. You become, a slave to the master, and the master is, the person that you owe the money to. $17 trillion is a huge sum of money, and it's going to be extremely difficult just to pay that. Would be extremely difficult to pay that much money back. But that's assuming that we were to balance the budget tomorrow, which we're not going to do, and that's the reason we're going to have to make some difficult decisions. We're going to have to get serious about that. And the first thing we've got to do before we start paying the money back is quit borrowing the money, and we can't quit borrowing money until we balance the budget. And you're right, China and Japan are our number one creditors, and right behind that, number three is the OPEC countries, because we've been, buying oil with dollars, and they're taking our dollars in the form of debt. And so it's a serious issue, and I appreciate you bringing that forward. We're going to go back to the phone lines, and I think that this is the Dagenhart. Is I'm saying that right?
Dagenhart.
Thank you.
Yes, Dagenhart.
Yeah. Do you think with somebody with be able to pronounce that, wouldn't you?
Exactly. And I have, well, thank you for allowing me to speak. And I want to say that I listened to you, and that's exactly what I believe in and what you're saying. And I had a few things to say, but one of the things we were talking about Mexico, we had a soldier that made a U-turn and ended up in Mexico, and we couldn't help him. We were not help, and I haven't listened to the news the last few days, but I think he's still in jail out there. It was an accident. It was making a U-turn. We've all gone down the wrong street, and nothing's happening. But we did release some pretty bad boys for one person. Why couldn't we have done it for our other person? He made an error. He called 911. And so Mexico is not nice to us, but when they go across the border, we take care of these people. I do believe that we should send those children back to their parents. They're not taking care of their children, sending them over here. Why should we pick up the tab? And I am not a born American. I am an adopted from another country. I did all the things right. I learned the language. I went to school, and nothing was given to me except coming to the greatest country in the world. And I wanted to talk about the Medicaid, that we need to cut down on our welfare, and like you spoke. Drug testing is one of the things that's up. We should test them. If they're going to get assistance from us, these people need to be tested. And why should we pay for their cigarettes? Why should we pay for their birth control?
Well, you know what you said. You agreed with things that I say, and I'm going to tell you that I agree with things that you say. Is those are all things that I believe that we ought to drug test people that are on public assistance, because the reason a lot of people aren't able to get a job is because they can't pass a drug test. But the other thing that you said, and probably to me the most important, is the fact that you weren't born in this country, but you came to this country and you did it the right way. And that's the reason that I can't grant citizenship to people that broke the law, because it's a disservice and it's to me offensive to the people that went through all of the headache and it's not easy to become a legal citizen in this country, nor should it be, because it's like you said, this is the greatest country on the planet, and it means something to become an American citizen, and we can't degrade that by allowing people to break the law to come into this country. Thanks again for those comments. We're going to go back to the phone line, and this is going to be the Brandon residents. Are you there?
Hello?
Yes. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. I have a question about the Republicans in general. I'm wondering when they're actually going to stand up for the conservative values that they were elected for. I keep hearing all of this knuckling under and giving in and not being who we want them to be, but just trying to get along and hang on to their jobs instead of offending somebody and having the press jump on them. When are they going to stand up for the American people instead of just trying to hang on to their job?
Well, I hopefully I put myself in the category that's the kind of congressman you have, is because I think we spend way too much time up here in Washington worrying about the next election, and we really ought to be worrying about the country, and that's the reason I love recorded votes. I think when you look at my voting record, I'm actually one of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, and that I don't even always vote with Republicans, because on some of these things I'm still thinking we should cut spending more, that we should be more physically responsible, we should do more to limit the administration and all these rules and regulations, but you're exactly right. But the way to fix that, quite honestly, is at the ballot box. And what's really discouraging to me is that when you look at the voter turnout around the country, whether it's a city election or a county election or statewide election or even a federal election, the American people aren't expressing themselves. And if you're going to change the behavior of these elected officials, the American people are going to have to go to the ballot box, and express themselves. And they're going to have an opportunity to do that in November. Going to go back to the phone lines, and I believe this is the Damone residence. Is that right? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
I don't know if you said it right or not, but it doesn't really matter.
You're on.
I guess I'm on.
You're
I
on.
had three things that I wanted to talk about, and I guess I'm going to move the third one to the first.
Okay.
One is about Republican fundraising. I have donated to the Republican Party, John McCain, you, others, and I don't want to do it anymore. And the reason is, I like what you guys talk about, but the problem is that once I donate, I get robo-called forever just to ask for more money. And it's not just your party. It's just, or not just your campaign, but other campaigns. And I would like to know, I guess my direct question is, where can I donate to the Republican Party and not get those robocalls? Second thing I wanted to ask about was that Marine we have in Mexico. That is unconscionable. We do, the president has, and we do have the power to make travel difficult to and from Mexico, especially from Mexico, and we ought to be doing that. There's a lot of Mexicans that come into Texas to visit, and we can make that more difficult until they release that guy. And then the final thing is, and I don't know how true it is, but the IRS situation, if they fail to report that they lost emails, that's a criminal offense, and it ought to be charged that way. So those are the three things I want to talk about.
Well, thank you. And to take that IRS one, I was in a briefing this afternoon, and we're having a lot of discussion about that because that doesn't smell right. The fact that not only did Lois Lerner's hard drive mysteriously crash, but now it turns out that 6 other people that of interest in that, when we requested those emails, they went months without telling us that they didn't have those emails, and then tried to slip it into a little briefing memo. So I think the whole IRS thing is going to have to be looked into. About the robocalls and getting that. Believe it or not, they call me too. I have suggested in the past that next time they call, say, if you keep me on the list, I'm going to quit donating to you. But I know it can be very annoying, and I get, I know it's kind of hard to believe that they call me too. You'd think they'd know that I already give the party, a lot of money myself, but I don't know a way to start. The Marine thing is a problem, and it I think the longer it goes on, I think the madder I get about it. But you're exactly right. America always plays too nice. All these other countries don't, play nice, and we play nice. I think we're going to have to step up our efforts there and find out, what it's going to take to get that young man released. I don't know all of the facts. I know what I've heard on TV and so forth. But it does sound like he inadvertently did that, and I don't think he intended to cause any harm to anybody, but just got in the wrong lane and ended up in Mexico, and unfortunately had some guns in his possession. We're going to go back to the phone line here, and I guess it's going to be the Ivy residence.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Thanks for being on the call.
Okay, let's talk about government spending. It needs to start at the top. You, for an example, will, for the rest of your life, receive a salary. when you're not reelected again, it needs to stop. You need to get health care like I get health care. I was unemployed for 13 months, and I had to go find health care. I had COBRA, and it was being paid for with my unemployment, which left me about $103, I think it was. And then in December, I think you were one of the people that voted against continuing the federal unemployment. Anyone on unemployment should be drug tested randomly, just like I do now that I've got a job. Every day I walk in, I can be drug tested. Everyone on welfare should, any day they walk in to re-up their debit card, should be drug tested. That's pretty much what I have to say.
Well, I agree with you. One of the things that about the unemployment insurance is that I think we need to relook or rethink the way we help people that, because it can happen. You can have your company has to, throttle back, or something happens and you change jobs, but I think what we have is we have some people that were out there that, like you said, couldn't pass a drug test, so couldn't get a job. That's a problem. But also, are we doing things to help that person, transition back into the workforce? Because in some cases, people into this day and age, don't have the right skill set for the labor market that they're in, and so are we helping them, get better skills and working with them? And so, I think what my viewpoint is on the unemployment insurance is we're spending those dollars, and I'm not sure we were spending them in a more efficient way, and then means testing or means drug testing, for whether you're on food stamps or unemployment or whatever you're on. It's and the other point that you make on doing things to cut spending. This will be the 6th year now that we have frozen congressional salaries, and in my office here, we get a budget for how much money we spend to hire people to work for you in the district and people to work for you up here in Washington. We've actually cut our expenses by 20% over the last 3 years here in our office, and we've actually downsized our office by 2 personnel. So we've been, trying to lead by example here of saying, we've got to cut spending, and so we've cut spending in our office. I think it's we had to tighten our belts, but you know what? We tightened them, and we're still, I believe, delivering the service to the people in the district that we were before the budget cuts. But our folks are just having to work a little harder. So thanks for your comments. And this will be the last call, because actually have gone over the time we're really allowed to use this technology. And I think this is going to be the Mendez residence in Abilene. So are you there?
Yes.
Thanks for being on the call. Did you have a question? Oh, they hung up. Nope, are you there? Well, maybe not. So, thanks for all of you being on the call tonight. And, this is helpful for me to hear from you and to how you feel about some of these issues. And I think we're very closely aligned. And the other issue is that, I think when you go and look at my voting record reflects that on these issues, I vote much in the same way that you would vote if you were voting yourself. You've delegated that responsibility to me. It's not something I take lightly. And so with that, I would just say thanks again for the opportunity to serve you. Mention one more time, if you're interested in Randy's Roundup, which is a weekly email that goes out, you can go to randy.house.gov. If you need some assistance in some way with combating the federal government, you can call our 800 number at 888-763-1611. And with that, good night, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.